It's now time for Monster Soup, with your really fun at parties host, Dave Spencer, and his level-headed co-host, Brian McKinney. These dudes will explore all the crazy mysteries roaming off forest and deserted hallways. After all, monsters are real. It's Monster Soup time right now. Get it while it's hot. And now your hosts, Dave and Brian.
Well. Welcome to Monster Soup, a kitchen conversation of misfits, cryptids, and these kids. I am Dave, your golden retriever host, and with me as always is Brian, or as they call him at the restroom, the Babadook. The Babadook.
Woo! All right, the Babadook. That's a good one.
I guess it'd be the Babadookie. Whatever. I thought of it like 5 minutes ago. I don't have time to crowdsource these. I just thought.
That's a good one.
All right. Well, welcome this week. I'm gonna get right into it. We have Jami on, and Jami King, and he is a guy that I specifically met. Actually, let's get him on, and then I'll tell this whole story. I don't want to leave him waiting in the wings. Welcome, Jami. How are you?
Hey, Jami.
Thank you both.
Welcome.
Absolutely. I met Jami specifically at the Salt Fork Bigfoot conference, and I met his dog first because I am an avid dog lover. And I turned around and I was like, "Your dog!" and I was petting your dog. And then I think about a half an hour later, then I emerged from the ground. I was like, "Oh, hi, I'm Dave." Which is usually how any dog interaction goes is dog first, you're second. That's how it works. But I've met your dog many times since then, and also you, so and your wife.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah. So why don't you start off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into, kind of Bigfooting and all things spooky and weird.
Okay, so I'll just say first, my dog. Everybody knows my dog there. Like
Yeah.
his name's Bill Murray. Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know him.
Love him. That's great.
Bigfoot. Bigfoot, the unknown. All of it started for me in like 2010, and my wife and I always call ourselves the accidental Bigfoot people because really we had an encounter in Pennsylvania that kind of changed our world. But since then, it's taken on two different directions, and like for Jenny and I both, it's taken two different directions. And literally, the encounter that we had in Pennsylvania, we both had to go see a psychologist afterwards because it was pretty profound.
Wow.
And we had to drive 80 miles to talk to somebody that was in the Bigfoot world just to tell them our report. And it turned out to be Sean Forker in Pennsylvania. So he belonged with the Keystone Bigfoot Project, and that's where we kind of met, and we started into the whole Bigfoot world. But the encounter itself changed us both.
Yeah. Are you able to talk about that at all? Or kind of what happened?
Yeah, I can talk about it, but I mean, I've talked about it a lot. But I mean, I'll talk to you
Now with us.
But what happened is my father had lived with us. He had bone cancer, and he passed away. And my wife and I were both hikers. So I went into this huge depression because I had just lost my mom, and then my father got cancer and he passed away. And my wife said, "Let's go for a hike. Let's do stuff to get you back out into the world," because literally I was like turning into like just a complete ball of depression.
Yeah.
And we went out on this hiking trail, and I remember this. I'm going to just tell you how it went. But at the beginning, when I got out, I said this prayer. I'm like, "Dad, if you're here, give me a sign that you're here." And, completely forgot about it. Then we just went on our hike, and we hiked down to this reservoir. It's called Shenango Reservoir. And on the way down, our dog was in front of us. And then we get to this meandering stream that feeds into the Shenango. And we were standing there, and I remember we were taking pictures of like mushrooms and stuff like that. And my dog came running up to me and wanted picked up. She was shaking, and I picked her up. And no sooner than I picked her up, we heard this vocalization in front of us. Like, so we heard this long, drawn out wailing type thing. And it's something that neither one, Jenny and I, had ever heard before. But we both stood there kind of in this state of like, WTF, like what the hell's happening? Like we were. And, we stood there, and I remember looking down, and there was the creek bed below our feet. And then there's a ravine that goes up, and it kind of goes out into this like gnarly area where a tornado had gone through at one point. So maybe like 15 years earlier, but the trees and everything were still partially there. And we watched this tree in front of us shaking, but this vocalization was still going on. And Jenny, I wish she was here. She's not here right now, but we both kind of just didn't say anything. We both stood there, and we were kind of like in the state of like, what the actual hell is happening? And we turned, and I'll never forget, like as we turned, you could actually hear this thing coming towards us. And then at one point it sounded like it was on both sides of us. So it sounded like more than one, but vocalization definitely, I can tell you, was absolutely never anything that I've heard of. And Jenny and I both are from Pennsylvania, so we grew up in the woods. We've never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
On the way out, so we're backtracking on this trail back out to my truck. And I remember we were basically almost running with my dog. And my dog it's a beagle. So she was a beagle Jack Russell mix, and I was carrying her, and I had my backpack on, and we're just going out. And I remember we got back to the truck. We went got in, drove home. Then we both didn't say anything the whole way home. And when we got back, we started researching online animal vocalizations, because Jenny and I were both like, we got to find out what it is.
What was that?
And literally, I don't know, like, I think it was days later, like we still couldn't find anything. And days later, we talked to somebody, and they said, have you ever thought of like Bigfoot? And I was like, well, not really. Like, why would I think of that? So then we Googled Bigfoot vocalization. And the first thing that came up was this vocalization called the Ohio Howl. It's probably one of the most famous on the East Coast for sure. And I remember like researching that, like, this is identical. Jenny and I both said that's identical to what we heard, only louder and much closer. So what you hear with the Ohio Howl there is like dogs barking, and you can hear this long wailing sound. But what we heard was super loud. And I remember taking all these notes, like trying to remember like what had happened, and really it bothered both of us. But the part that gets really weird is our friend works for Fish and Game and Wildlife, so we took him back to the location to show him where this had happened. So we hiked all the way down there, and I'm totally expecting that we're just going to show him the area where it happened, tell him what happened, and come, back out to our vehicles. But on the way out, the second time at the same location, we were hiking out, and we had both of our dogs at the time. So we heard on the way out, we heard this like whistle type sound, like this loud whistle. Then we heard what sounded like a man speaking, and we heard what sounded like a dog bark. So I remember telling Jenny, get the dogs on the leash, because I don't know what kind of dog's going to come out. Nothing came out. So we're standing there. It's Jenny and myself and our friend who's the Fish and Game and Wildlife guy. We stood there and nothing came out. So he and I had both walked to this edge of this ravine to look down to see what type of person or what dog was going to come out. And nothing came out, but we watched this thing stand straight up, and it stood straight up and it started running downhill away from us. And for whatever reason, we both started going towards it. Like, it wasn't like this fear thing, like I'm going to be afraid, but at this point I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. For one, that I'm showing him the area where it happened. So we went down this ravine, and what I remember is that this ravine was pretty steep. So whatever this was that we saw had to be super powerful, because like it's going downhill and it went at a speed away from us. But the crazy thing is, like, when we got down there, there was this large, like, nested like structure. So there was a thing on the ground near where we had seen it stand up. And then, so that day ended, and when you have a Bigfoot encounter, it doesn't end there. Going over and over in your head. And for days, I kept thinking about it. And then this is where it gets really weird. And this is where everything changed for me. Was on my way to work, I remember driving in my truck, and I was remembering that whole day. And something said to me, go back to the beginning. And the beginning for that hike was on the trail when I said, Dad, if you're here, give me a sign. And this is where I'm going to tell you things get weird. And like if you're
now,
yeah, it's just now going to get weird. Okay,
it's just now going to get weird. So I'm driving, and I remembered the last days with my dad, and he asked me. He was living with us, and he had bone cancer, but he said, "Can you take me out on your deck so I can look at the trees and listen to the birds?" And I did that for him, and then he said, "I'm ready to go back in." So I brought him back in the house, and my sister from Maryland had given me a stack of movies for my dad to watch. And this is where it gets very weird, but as I'm driving in my truck, I had this memory. The very last movie that I watched with my dad was Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh.
So,
oh my gosh,
that is weird. Yeah,
like literally, I mean, I literally had to pull my truck off the side of the road, and I was crying, and I had to call my wife and told her, "You will never believe this." And then that's where it took this physical thing, like this very physical encounter with something that I believe to be Sasquatch. I can't say 100%.
Yeah.
Very physical. Then took a very spiritual feeling to me, because then I kept thinking, like, what the actual hell? Like, what does, like, if you pray, where does that go? If you're thinking, where does that go? So then it became this energetic thing where, to me, like, something answered that, because there's no way. And my father was pretty humorous. So, like, I don't know how that all plays into it. But it's all weird. And then life goes on. We get in our car and we drive 80 miles to tell somebody else, like a actual person in the Bigfoot world, to report it. We reported it, and that's where everything, then we started going to conferences and, doing
that's crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, there's so much in that story, like from like, I mean, especially the prayer part, like just telling the universe, like, hey, just, let me know. Because I think everybody kind of has that moment of like, hey, let me know if you're here, and they'll manifest that in certain ways. But like having this little like caveat of like, if you think about it very humorously, it's like your dad just being like, check this out, and
it sounds crazy, and you almost don't want to tell people. So that's why Jenny and I both went to counselor, and it was her cousin that's a counselor, and we went to her and we told her what happened, and she's like, Jamie, she said, I have a lot of people that come in with anomalous things happen to them, and she started this thing called Free Thinkers. So Jenny and I joined this group of people that have had encounters. So we met all kinds of people that have really anomalous encounters. Like we met a preacher who said that she was abducted by aliens, and like it was sort of this group thing where it's like you feel like you're at Alcoholics Anonymous or something, but people are talking about their experiences. And then I was like, do I really want to tell people this? And we actually did.
Well, yeah.
I realized you're not alone. Like people that are afraid to tell their stories, you're not alone.
Yeah.
That would be really hard. I mean, like, especially if you're just like trying to be like, I don't know, you want everybody to like kind of take what you're saying seriously. You're like, hey, listen, I'm dealing with grief, and like it kind of manifests in this way. And also I had this crazy encounter, like whatever. And you don't want people to like laugh you out of the room, which is the reason why we kind of hang out with these kinds of people. Because you're like, no, I have this story and it's, traumatic. And then, I mean, like I would explain it to somebody like, who like a non-believer kind of person, they would just be like, well, it's probably, I'm like, I don't need you to explain it. Like, I already know what I think it is. And we're not trying to dissect that part. Let's just like live in that moment of it being real. That's very, very cool. So that basically, that was your launching point into like,
that was the launching point. That was definitely the launching point. But then, Jenny and I started going into different directions with this whole thing, because like you have to look at it like it's a very physical experience, which if you're looking for a primate in the woods, possibly we found something, we had an experience. If you're looking for something spiritual, then you got to look at that side of it, which I guess would be considered woo. I find myself in, like, I'm a hiker, so Jenny and I have made our goal that we hike pretty much every single day of the year and every weather condition. So the physical thing and the spiritual thing. So like those are coming together for us in a really cool way. Like Jenny's a Reiki energy healer. Started doing like ecotherapy. So like training with taking people out into the woods and connecting with the forest. And I felt like that's the best way for me to experience other things in the woods. Like, you don't really know me, but Jenny and I do really weird things now. Like, if we think that we've had a Bigfoot encounter, then we could experience other things. Like, I've talked to indigenous tribes that talk about small beings in the woods, but
But yeah, you hear stories about people that, when they kind of are able to get in touch with that kind of stuff, whether it be spiritual or whatever, that's not the only thing that they can come into. Some people, they see ghosts, or they're more prone to seeing other things as well. Like they're in tune with whatever wavelength that is going on. And then there's people like me that's like, I can't see anything. Nothing's cool. Nothing's ever happened to me.
Well, I would even say like it's just important to get out there in general, like especially for your mental health. Like it's every time I go into the woods, like the deep woods where like no one's kind of around, you feel 100 times better, because you get, especially when it's like the perfect weather and you're just kind of just sitting there like like it smells better, it feels better. You can kind of reflect on like your life in a good way. So regardless if you're looking for something or not, it's just good to be there. So if you're doing that and also getting like some sort, if you're inviting people to have these like cool experiences and also having them, it's so cool. And it's a real,
and like you meet the coolest people in the Bigfoot world. Like a lot of people have different styles of research, and like when you come together and you start looking at how other people research, you find out better ways of doing things. And that's kind of where Jenny and I are at. Like, we do a lot in the Allegheny National Forest.
Oh yeah. What's there specifically for that kind of draws you guys there?
Oh wow, the Allegheny National Forest, people don't know, it's in Pennsylvania, but it got its name from the Allegheny. So the Allegheny were these giants that lived amongst the Indians. So there's a very spiritual element to that whole thing. And like, I think even Shenango, where I had our encounter, Shenango was a Native American, so it was like the beautiful one. And Bigfoot has a name in different places. And I'm, after doing research after my encounter, starting to interview other people that had encounters around there was so fascinating, because we were getting our tires fixed on our car, and somebody was talking to us about like our Bigfoot stuff that we do. And this guy was standing there, and he started talking to Jenny and I. He said to us, I had this encounter when I was like 8 years old at the Shenango. And he said he was on his bicycle, and he said he drove down this access road because they were building a dam at the time. And he said he had a Bigfoot encounter. And I'm like, well, where's this at? And he started talking to us, and he told us exactly the location where we had our encounter. And Jenny and I were like, this is so weird. Like, how do you randomly just meet somebody that talks about that? So, we started thinking like, let's do a micro study. So, we've taken the Shenango and we've made it like the back of our hand. We know it, if we're out there, we know if something's changed. We have different areas that we set up things that we do. And, we found prints and stuff. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I was saying, because I remember we were going on a walk once behind people who were in the BFRO and stuff, and they're looking at stuff, and I'm just kind of like, that's just like why are they looking at that? Because that could be anybody. And I think maybe with that same guys, like, I know that tree wasn't there, or that tree wasn't moved that way last week, or the last time I was here. I guess that would more feed into like the understanding the idea of that, because I'm just looking at like, I think they're wrong, and like walking by, but they're literally like dissecting like the entire environment because they know the environment. It's
observation is key. Like, you have to be a good observer with everything.
Is it like are you an observant person like in general, or is it kind of like one of those things that you kind of like learned really well? Because I'm very unobservant a lot of the times.
Well, I'm one of 7, so I have 7 siblings. So you have to be observant to find out which one did whatever they're going to blame you on.
Yeah, right.
And I have a twin, so my twin.
Oh, okay.
There's kind of an intuitive nature with me. And
oh wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you probably have to be like, all right, what's my older brother doing? Because like I need to completely cop his style and make it uncool for him.
Well, it's a twin. I have a twin sister.
Oh, twin sister. Well, you know, to each his own. You can do the same thing she's doing. I'm doing better in this sundress, ma'am.
Don't dress.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I said my parents never dressed us alike. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wait, you know they did it at least one time. We had like onesies on, or like right before you had like cognitive memory. I just keep that one picture. They're like, look at him.
You know, well, like we said earlier, you know, we met you at the Ohio Bigfoot conference. Well, in fact, we ran into you at Monster Fest, I think, too, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
What other conferences do you typically go to, and or you know, which ones are your favorites?
You know, like OBC, we've been going to for the longest, and it's probably one of my favorites. But you know, go to a lot of the conferences in Pennsylvania. There's one in Marionville. I like Mothman. Like I always was opposed to Mothman because I'm not big on crowds.
Oh yeah.
For me to talk to people really is kind of rough. I mean, Mothman was so packed, but I loved about it because the whole town is really cryptid.
Cryptid in itself. I keep wanting to go that one, but it's same thing. Like the thing I do like about the Salt Fork one is that it's like intimate, like in a way that it is also big. But like there's spots to kind of like talk to people, and I'm always like worried that if I go to these other ones, we're not gonna have those experiences or moments with the people where we can actually like talk. It'll just be like a bunch of like randos who are just like, I'm just here to party, and I'm like, like. Also me, but also like I'd love to hear, you know, like talk like face to face with somebody who's like actually into this and not just here for a t-shirt. So like with
I like the vendors. Like the vendors have become my friend.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is I end up spending a lot of money.
It's
not.
I mean, we've talked about going down to the Mothman Festival. But so we haven't made it there. It's right around. It's like middle of September, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
We gotta get down there.
Yeah, because I think we went to Monster Fest last year, and I was like, well, I can't do two because I had like that and then another thing, and I was like, I can't also go and leave again for Mothman because you know,
like you have to book rooms like way ahead, like maybe a year ahead.
Oh, really? It's like that? Dang.
It's town, really.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I still need to check it out though. It's just, I mean, just as an experience, like I've never been there. My wife's been there one time. She's checked out the statue and stuff. Because our friend is like from that town. And I've always just wanted to visit it. And I know there's little museums and stuff. Maybe I'll just go in like the off season and just like hang out, just running live.
Yeah.
But yeah, the same thing that like what I was saying is I really just want to find the spots where people actually have like Mothman stories, I guess, which I don't even know. Do people have Mothman stories besides the like core sighting? Like I don't feel like that's a thing I really hear.
There are people that say that they see things near those what's it called, the mines or whatever they are.
Oh yeah. I
mean, I remember telling me stories there, and I'm like, really now, like Mothman now, but yeah.
I mean, he's just like, I mean, the initial story itself is very cool. So I don't know if people are just kind of like glomming other things onto it, or if it was a bigger thing that we're kind of adding. Like we were putting our own stuff on what it actually was, and it just happened to be a bridge collapse. And he's like, "I've been here the whole time." I didn't do that. So I don't know. It's strange, but there are little silly ones that I want to go to. What we're about like Squanch Fest. I really want to go to.
Yeah,
like the pig Fest. One.
That's
that's in Pennsylvania. Yeah,
Pennsylvania. Yeah, I think it was what it comes down to is there was a couple in Pennsylvania we just need to go to, and just like have a time and just like meet some people. You know, we've been trying to talk to a bunch of BFRO people in general, but what's your common like what are you up to? Like what's the first thing you're doing?
You mean when I go to a conference or when I'm in the
No, when you're out, like when you're in the woods doing the wood stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, okay, so Jenny and I have changed like who we are as people. Like really like we look at everything now with the physical aspect, and we look at everything with an energetic aspect. So we've branched off into really cool stuff. Like we started doing, it's called CE5 Contact. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So we started this whole contact series where if you're able, like, it's almost like ghost hunting, but you're searching for aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off of Dr. Stephen Greer. You know Dr. Stephen Greer?
Yes.
So really start researching it, but he has this thing that's called CE5 protocol. And basically what you do is you meet in a meadow and you have like these tones and frequencies that you play. So it's like a very quantum, like tones and frequencies that were, some of them are known UFO recordings. So we put them on little external speakers, and I have this cool, like, I'll show you.
Yes.
This is badass, but so we take these tones and we put them on a little walkie-talkie. So I have the T walkie-talkie.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
You set it out, and it's basically what you do is it's a meditation. So we do meditations, and then we play these tones, and then you just sit back, and it's kind of like consciousness. So you're using your human. CE5 actually means Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So it's human-initiated contact, which people are doing all around the world. And you sit there, and you play these tones, you do the meditation, and then you just watch the sky. And I can tell you, with 100%, we have seen some of the coolest things ever. And when you start thinking of yourself as a human frequency at tuning, like you're with tuning and receiving, and everything comes from this heart place. Like even when we're in the woods, Jenny and I are using this heart space, and we're communicating with the forest in our own way. Like it might sound crazy, but now I talk to Bigfoot, and I'm like, Bigfoot doesn't answer me. I'll say stuff. I'll talk to the trees and everything, but this whole CE5 thing was just branching off from what we already do. And it's so many fascinating things happen. I can't, but we've had groups of people that have experienced things. And I really look at other human beings, and I look at the human species as a very powerful instrument. We don't realize the power that we have as human beings and what we built. And that's where Jenny and I are both at with this whole thing. And like, whether it be ghost, whether it be ETs, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be anything, any of these cryptids, whether it be fairies in the forest, but literally you can make contact with whatever you're putting your intention to contact.
Are you holding these events like for other people? Like, can other people come, or is it just your friends? Or I'm very curious about it because I had actually heard about him doing that. Now you can like go out to the desert and do that whole thing with him, and I was just like, I'm not gonna go do that, but if you're doing it like a little more local to me, like that sounds really cool to be part of.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we do is we don't charge people. If we do it at a place, we did one at Haunted Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and they charge for the building, like for us to access. Didn't receive any money, but we do this basically because it's expanding consciousness. And it's expanding awareness, and that's what Dr. Stephen Greer's protocol is about. So Jenny and I have studied his protocol, and that's what we do. And I mean, we have events, like we'll put up events, like I use Instagram to announce like where we're going to be doing it. And like, even if we do Bigfoot stuff, like if we're in the woods, we just invite people. We'll put an invite, and they're welcome to come.
That sounds very, very cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, just in general to have that. I mean, even if nothing happens, it's just that's a consciousness experiment. That sounds at least unifying in a way, you know. There's something about being with people in the woods that's just you can kind of feed off each other if you're all on the right like wavelength of like, oh, we're here to experience something that isn't just us sitting around a fire drinking beers, you know, like it's a little different.
I always say to people, and I always say that it's very important to be a person. We're only on this planet a short amount of time to learn as much as you can. You know, I'm not in any of this for fame. I'm in all of this stuff for answers because, like, you know, like I don't know where to go with the next place, but if you take that knowledge with you, then I'll have this next knowledge base that I take with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you tell people, humans are one of the biggest mysteries. Like, where do we come from? God is a huge mystery. Like, we don't know. But we still have this faith that we communicate with God, or we're communicating with other human beings. But we're the biggest unknowns.
Right.
Yeah, that's great though. I actually I don't know how you feel about the unknown, but I very much enjoy that part of it. I mean, it's like learning a magic trick. You go like, oh, that's what it was. But like, so there's a little bit of that, but there's also like I'm never scared of like what it could be. It's I mean, obviously I am scared of like things that I have to do that are like, hey, we need you to present in front of 700 people. You're like, it's gonna be scary, you know, like because I don't know what that's gonna be. But for the most part, like going into these like situations like that, it's like I'm only gonna be inviting to all these like very spiritual things. Because I mean, like you were saying, these people are interesting in this circle, like this circle of people that like enjoy these kinds of things. They're always amazing. First off, they're always really good people. You know, they're fun to talk to. We're operating on a wavelength of like, we're here to experience something that's like not us, just like it's not the football game on Sunday. It's not, you know, these like things that we've told ourselves are the things we're supposed to do as humans. It's like, it's a different thing. Not that those things aren't great, and everybody has to have their like kind of release for those things as well. But there's like a thing that happens like that we could just experience together that isn't just church on Sunday and whatever it is. It can be your own, I guess, your own little church that you made in the woods. That's
and there's no right or wrong. Like there's
exactly.
There's no handbook really on this. It's just experimenting and saying to yourself, what if something happens? And that what if a lot of times does turn into like people experiencing things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of about having a curiosity about the universe.
Right.
I feel like we know very little.
Yeah, we know nothing. Yeah. we think we know a lot, but we don't know.
Well, a long time ago, a lot of guys put a bunch of stuff in books and they said, we figured it out. And then we have since unfigured that out. But those people have still gone, no. We already figured it out. It's like, no, we figured it out again. And then we're also figuring out that those people didn't get it figured out either. So the additional figuring it out people are wrong. It's like, so we're never going to figure it out. And then one day we will figure it out when we die.
I feel like the time that we're living in, the world that we're living in is very, very strange. But
yes,
what feeding off what you just said is like, we're deconstructing a lot of what we believe to be true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why not construct something that you might possibly be? And I watch a lot of Gaia TV. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yep.
So Gaia TV, I think they have some of the most fascinating brains on the planet. Like the smartest people, like Dr. Teresa Bullard, Dr. Greg Braden, and they're really experimenting with the world around them. And I think that like they both agreed and they both said that when science and spirituality meet in the middle and they decide that there's something more, like there is something more. That's the biggest advancement in society. Yeah,
they don't need to be exclusive of each other. They're kind of working, in parallels.
Yeah, I remember hearing a lot of stories about people doing DMT, and you could take that with a grain of salt for whoever isn't on board with this entire idea that I'm about to tell you. But there was a very cool thing that I got. This one guy was like, I was doing a lot of DMT and I was going into like, you go back into your consciousness essentially. And he's like, I would run into this, like these beings. And he was like, I was like in the back room of consciousness. He was like, of like all the universe. And it's like, they were like, oh, you're here. Hey, like put up the drapes real quick. What's going on? It was like, I was like interrupting their job. And then, he came like friend, the experience is like, it feels like an eternity, but it's really like 15 minutes kind of thing. And he would come back, like do it again and come back and it'd be the same experience and same people. And they'd be like, hey, you're back, whatever. And then he's like, and then he had another friend do it. And he's like, I ran into them and they told me to tell you hi. He's like, they knew you already. And it's just like one of those things, those make me go like, what is that? I mean, obviously you can make up any kind of world you are because it's, it's like a dream state, but also like what are dreams? So we can dig into that. But I mean, it's again, we don't have anything figured out.
And those drugs, those things may be they may just be a hack to the consciousness, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just it's another, like you said, tome that goes into it's a booster for your space needle. To kind of bring that all in. Oh, where are you at with like what you saw? Like, do you think that was a manifestation of your father kind of doing that, or was that maybe it kind of nudging it along, or where are you at in that journey of like figuring all that out?
I'm not really sure. Like, I question it all the time, and I think because very physical encounter. I can't deny that, but then prayer and what happened. It's the synchronicity and the whole part of that I can't, like, it would be disingenuous for me to like think that that doesn't exist, but there is powerful to it. So I guess I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I started researching the Buddhist and how the Buddhists think, and the Buddhists believe in the tulpas. So tulpas are things that you manifest with your mind and with prayer, and they can actually take physical forms. I don't know. I really don't know, but I had an experience that I can't explain.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to be like, oh, it's this for sure. But I mean, like, as far as like where your journey is, like, oh, yesterday I was thinking about it and I had a different thought that I've never had before about it. Because things just are fluid, and that so one day we'll have a thought about this. You're like, I think it might have been this, or my dad has a sense of humor, so he must have manifested or whatever. I mean, like, I can't imagine a world where once I pass and have the ability to kind of do that, or whatever happens, I can't imagine a world where I wouldn't also do the same thing, just kind of be like one more thing to kind of be silly and kind of mess with the kids in a fun way.
You start hearing about, like, people, you meet people and you hear about people talking about being woke. When I had to go to the psychologist and I'm talking about all this stuff, what started happening for me was all these things started, it was like this ball of energy, like things started being these huge synchronicities that I couldn't really just ignore. I could ignore them. Like, I'll just give you another example. Like, my friend, her brother was in prison in South Dakota, but she would share photos from my Instagram with her brother, and he didn't really know, like, he grew up at the Shenango, so he didn't really know about, like, the specific area, but she told me, she said, he has a gift for you that I never met him in my life, but she said he has a gift for you. And I met her at the car wash, and this person who's in prison in South Dakota gave me a painting. And this is very weird, but the painting was of my dog Harley, the one that we experienced I believe to be. She had passed away, but he didn't actually know that. He painted this picture, a black and white picture, because in prison you're only allowed black and white paint. He painted a picture of Bigfoot and a beagle. But what he didn't know was that when I would go out on the hikes after this whole encounter, I would always say a prayer. I always say a prayer when I go into the woods. And I said, Harley, help me find Bigfoot. Help me find what we experienced. And sure enough, like, this painting was so weird. And that's what I mean, like, when I say the universe has this weird humor, but it also has weird synchronicities that you just can't explain. And that's kind of how my life has gone in so many different ways. I have to stop, look at it, and say, what is this? Am I overlooking? Am I overreacting? But I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of things that happen when you're in this zone.
Yeah. Well, then you wonder how many things, like, people, it could be happening to them and they're just walking right past it. They're not seeing any of the signs because they're not in tune with anything. They're so caught up in their job and they're caught up in, their daily life. Other people could be experiencing this kind of stuff too, but we just kind of bypass it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I remember hearing a story about somebody who we knew. Well, I didn't know personally, but like, well, somebody just told me a story. Doesn't matter. But they were like incredibly same situation. They were just like incredibly depressed. Were like in the woods, just taking a walk. I think their grandma had passed away, and they had their experience like then. And they were in a spot where and it was around here, which I was just like, wait, there's activity around here, and they're like, oh yeah, and I was just like, I just had no idea. And their experience was like, life changing too, because kind of same situation. He's in the BFR now, but they never talked about it either. Like it happened, and it was so just groundbreaking for them. And then real quick, I want to go back to the noise that you were talking about. You said it was loud. What level of loud are we talking? Like,
the level of loud was so loud that you could really, and I've heard other people on podcasts say they could feel it in their chest, but really watching this creek bed below us ripple from the sound. So it's that very, very loud. And like when Ohio howl that was recorded in Wellsville, Ohio, Wells about 40 miles from where we had our encounter at Shenango. So that was another part of this synchronicity. Like, wow, what is this? Like, this is so weird. I'd find it from a place that's only 40 miles away. So then your mind has to go back to, is this a physical thing or is this something spiritual? You know what I mean? So being 40 miles away, I would think this could be some kind of species that's like, within Pennsylvania and Ohio, which I
Right.
know what would be in Pennsylvania and Ohio, but I'm probably wrong.
I mean, with it, I think it makes more sense that it probably would be. I mean, a more spiritual being in general, within what we're talking about, at least right now, because I guess the same reason why it's there and then it's not. Something can be able to kind of climb away so quickly in a lot of aspects, but then I guess that also feeds into the phrase of like what is physical, because we still find like footprints when like we weren't around too. So there's like, I don't know. I guess that
I think you're going to
contradict the other.
when you go to these conferences, people are going to always want to put you in a category. So
Mhm.
they're going to surprise you as, are you a person that's into this as a physical ape in the woods, or are you into this as a woo and it's spiritual? And I'm really very much in the middle with all of it. So like, that's where I'm at. And I always tell people, I don't have the answers. I don't know, but I'm looking and I'm using my curiosity to take me to the next step. And
Yeah.
I could be wrong with any and all of it, really.
Yeah.
I find stuff.
Yeah. And that's kind of the fun part of the whole thing is it's a mystery, whether it be Bigfoot or aliens or Mothman for that matter, just trying to, we've always just been, kind of so interested and obsessed with, mysteries and the unknown, and, you're always learning something. You're always figuring something out.
So I can ask you questions. Where are you both? Like, do you believe it's 100% like an ape, or?
That's more what I'm thinking. I think it's just, an undiscovered, North American great ape, but I'm open to anything else. I have nothing to back that up. That's just, I usually start with like the simplest answer, it's a living, breathing thing. And then we kind of go from there. But, I've never had, a spiritual encounter like that, which would give me something else. I'm just kind of starting on, the lowest rung of the ladder. Then I'll, work my way up, based on my experiences. But that's kind of where I'm at. But like I said, I'm open to anything.
Yeah. I would say, Jamie, I'm probably right where you are, but a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, because, well, again, same with Brian. I don't have an experience, so like, if I was there, I could maybe tell you more about like a situation. If something actually happened to me, I could be like, oh, well, I know how it felt, so I could see it, but then it was gone. And then if I had an additional, like, just I think there's a lot of experiences that happen specifically for one person when it comes to these kinds of things. Like the reason why some people don't see it, some people do, is really in tune with the fact that like who that person is. If you go into a haunted house with an open heart, you're either going to take something from it because of the way you're kind of thinking, or it's going to see you in a way that you're kind of open to, or unopen to, because it's scary. So, yeah, I think I sit right in the middle again, same as Brian. I haven't seen anything, but I would love to kind of just have one in the bank, just so I could be like, oh, got it. I have some sort of like, needle on the record where I could be like, oh, here's mine or whatever. And it was this, but I live in a city, so it's not happening.
Tell you one more thing that takes me into the realm of like, I'm like Ron Moorhead with a lot of things, and I feel like Ron Moorhead, when he wrote that book, he was writing that book for me, because literally, Jenny and I have this recorder. It's called the Panasonic DR60, and we recorder into the woods, and we were using the recorder, and I would make a sound, and I'd say, I'm going to make a sound and I want you to repeat this sound. This was in the Allegheny National Forest when people that we were with were 100% it's an ape. That's all it is. And we used this recorder like we were ghost hunting. And I said, I'm going to make a sound and you repeat the sound. And I did this whoop. And then on the recorder, I didn't hear it with my naked ear. And I had this guy's 8-year-old daughter with me, and her father was there, and we stood there and we didn't hear it. But when we played back the recorder, it made it just like what I did. So it's
That's
like what I say, experiment with the field. Don't be afraid. Like I don't really, like, I'm a person that I really don't care if people think that like I'm crazy or whatever, because literally I had a crazy experience, so I'm gonna find my answer.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
there are worse things to be called than crazy. You know? Call me boring, I'll kill you. Call me crazy, I'll be like, yeah, whatever. That tracks.
Well, yeah, next Friday, Dave and I are going to the Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio, and we're doing an overnight ghost hunt there.
Yeah,
with a small group of people. So, any advice for us? This is like our first official ghost hunt.
Well, I mean, I used to be a volunteer there, so that's really
strange. Oh, really? Oh, nice.
I can tell you so many stories about that building. Like Jenny and I we worked there with Scott Sukol and Susan. They used to they were the first people to open the prison, and Jenny and I were some of the very first people to go in there and remove the mattresses and get the prison ready for ghost hunting.
Wow.
Left there, but we were tour guides, so like
that's crazy. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. How strange is that?
That's crazy.
We have literally you on like a week before we do it. Like literally to the calendar day. That's so funny.
Jenny tell you a lot more stories about it because that prison reacts to women a lot more than men.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, and probably with what she kind of does, right? Like it probably is more receptive to her in general because she's kind of open-hearted in that way.
I will say this, like if you want an experience at that prison, I would say that what you need to do is go off, and it might sound scary, but go off on your own and just sit. Like sit in a cell, find a cell and just sit there. And then actually like just say to yourself, I would like to experience whatever's here in a very friendly way and just see what
that's a good pointer. That's a really good pointer in a friendly way.
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought about that. I'm like, I want to experience something, and it's just the scariest thing ever. And I'd be like,
I mean, this asking this, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. I have what kind of equipment do you usually take? You have like actual equipment, or you said you have your Panasonic?
Well, the Panasonic, but back then we were basically just helping them as tour guides, and like the ghost hunting part of it came afterwards. But you know, like I think that, and I've learned this over the years, the number one piece of equipment that you can take with you is you. You're the tuner and you're the receiver.
Okay.
Number one. But if you want to share evidence with people and that's important to you, then I take a recorder. Panasonic DR60s are very, very expensive now. Any recorder can work, and just take trigger objects and see if they move.
Okay. What would be considered a trigger object to you? Like a flashlight?
Maybe at the prison you could take something like a naughty magazine or something like that. Just
I never thought about that. Oh man, that would go over very well. I'd be like, they're all surrounding me.
You'd be the most popular guy there.
I know. They'd be like, look now. They'd be like, oh my gosh.
The things we found as we were cleaning that prison out. That is the scary part.
Wow.
Why is this wall sticky?
No, there was always trash cans with something behind it.
Oh, really?
Like, usually a nude woman behind the trash can, like it would be facing out to this. You know,
they'd hide their contraband that way. You know, little hilarious and so
I couldn't imagine just being like in that and be like, oh gosh, and like not being able to sway like to the other side. You're just like, I'm just stuck in here. I'm so horny. Just all bricked up in this brick building.
Yeah,
gotta make it work. All right, I actually might do that. I'll go to the local store, get some Jugs magazines, just walk around, and be like, anybody want this? Just make it work. It's like, I only want good vibes only. Just don't do anything weird.
Oh, another thing there, like if you're at the prison, go up to the chapel. So they had a chapel.
Oh, that's what we heard. Yeah.
Take like a Bible or something, point to a word, point to any word, put the flashlight on it, point to a word, and then say, what word am I pointing at? And then have your recorder running and see what shows up. Because I felt like that when we were there, the chapel always had like really cool stuff happen.
I guess it probably would be the place they went to in like their either time of like need, or like, you know, a time they kind of needed to reflect on something,
Yeah.
or even like a redemption arc that we're trying to go on of like, hey, I did some bad stuff, but I'm here now and I have to kind of like save it all. So that's a really good pointer. Yeah, we've heard good things about the shower house, about going down there and getting some experiences. So I'm excited about experiences.
Jenny has some stories about that. Like,
yeah.
Well, I remember I'll tell you one of her stories, but we were there cleaning. It was like February, and she went into the actual showers to shower. And I think there were 4 of us in the whole entire building. She came out of the shower and she couldn't find her clothes or her towel. So she was yelling for us, like, I can't find my clothes and my towel. And literally I had to go in there and like, where the heck did your clothes or towel go? And like, literally it was one of those moments like, maybe they stole it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
wow.
I've never found her towel.
You never found her towel?
No.
Yeah, I have heard stories about people just being like, I lost something and then it like reappeared, like of like a legit like, and like even within people who like enjoy this stuff and are like on board with it, like still being like, it wasn't that, right? You know, but they're still just like, but it wasn't there when I looked and now it is there. You know, that like feeling of like, I definitely looked here like 9 times and then all of a sudden it's like back again.
Yeah,
like,
it's like they're messing with you.
Yeah, like whatever that is.
That's the unseen. That's the quantum all around us. We don't know around us.
Right.
We have these things about us that we can see things, but like maybe there's things actually moving things.
I mean, listen, we didn't understand bacteria was real until like what, like a couple 100 years ago, 200 years ago, something like that. Like we were like, what? There's other things? Like it was just like whatever we could see, touch, and feel, and then all of a sudden you find out that's like 1% of our reality.
Yeah,
you know, is like that, and then everything from like you know, dark matter and stuff, which is just like scientific, really, but like, I mean, still a theory, but the idea of it is that there's something connecting all of us. And that one specifically is all of our planets, but you know, maybe there's an additional thing on top of that, which is, you know, they find out that, you know, like trees talk to each other. There's no reason why, you know, we can obviously physically talk to each other or you know, through actual vibrations and stuff, but they, you know, they found that the grass, the smell that everybody has of fresh grass is actually grass warning other grass that it's something bad's about to happen. So, which is just the saddest thing in the world. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're all like, that's such a great smell. You know, meanwhile, grass is like, they're coming for you.
Yeah.
Pretty high.
I get you.
Yeah. What were we gonna say? Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say it goes back to what we said. Like we're deconstructing a lot that we know, and we're constructing what might be. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what makes this all interesting. I mean, like again, going back to what you were saying, there's interesting people to be met. I mean, just every time I hear a story, first off, every story is like so different, even though it's like kind of the same setup. You know, it's just like I was going about my day, and then all of a sudden something crazy happened. It's just so cool that like everybody has like these different, either a menacing experience or something that's just kind of like interactive or just a noise or you know, we heard one that a guy was just like, the one guy said, he's like, I'm glad I'm in front of the guy. They were both running away. He goes, I'm glad I'm first because I'm gonna be the second person to die. Like he was just like, for sure we're dying right now, because they were just like, you know, and the thing is just behind them, like boom, boom. And I mean, I don't know what stops them. I don't know what, like, you know, what makes it less intimidating in other manners, but at the same time, it's just like, maybe that's not our mystery to unsolve. It's just a mystery to observe. And you guys are doing the good stuff, which is going out there and just absorbing it in like the coolest, most interesting way possible. Just trying to, you know, to bring in people and stuff.
All right.
I don't know. It's the good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's just, yeah. You know, you get, you know, people's stories. This is what always kind of fascinates me. It's like, you know, sometimes, you know, they have like a docile, you know, Bigfoot story. Other times, you know, it's so scary, you know, and it's like, you know, is it the experience that you're manifesting for yourself, that why one would be scary and one could be spiritual or peaceful? Oh, I think we lost Jamie.
think we lost him. We can still vamp though. He said something about a thunderstorm earlier. But yeah, I mean, there's some very cool things that are just like out there in the world that we just can't explain it. And I know there's a lot of people. There's people in the chat right now. I'd like to say hi to everybody in the chat. Sorry, whenever we have a guest, I want to make sure that like I'm giving them the time and not making sure I'm not like whatever. But there's just so many crazy things out there, and it's just so fun to know that like we don't have it all figured out, even though we figured out like a good amount of it. But and I've said this before, I think it's okay for scientists to not. Oh, Jimmy's back. Hey, you're back.
What happened?
Yep, it's all good. Yeah, I saw you kind of freezing up, and I was like, oh no. It's okay. We're in the final stretch, so you're good. But we just kept vamping. We were halfway through our thoughts, so we just kept going. But yeah, there's just so much out there that I think scientists will. I think a good thing for scientists to go like, hey, this isn't the line in the sand. The line in the sand can change. It's kind of the point of science is it's experimental, and you go like, I think it's this, and then you go, well, you know what? I thought it was this. It's not that anymore. I mean, the problem is that like a lot of people get egotistical about it, and that's where our problems kind of lie. It's like, no, we've said this, and we found out like a lot of studies of just things just aren't accurate anymore because it was done by it was sponsored by people who wanted it to say that, so if we're being very factual about it, it's like the tobacco industry funding research on tobacco, like it just be like, no, it was fine, and it's like, we find out like later, I was like, oh no, it was actually all the research that we heard that it was all good. It was absolutely not true because, so we just have to take everything with a grain of salt, which is really annoying. And you just wanted to be like, hey, just like, we're trying to figure this out. And people will hear saying one time, and then you just like, you just kind of have that in your brain forever. Like it doesn't change much. You just go like, oh, that's just what I know. And then you don't circle back because you're out of that curiosity zone that sometimes when you're younger, you absorb things, and then that's just how you think forever. I think because you don't have time to think about it again because you've thought about it when you're navel gazing when you're younger. But once you get older and you have a job and you have kids and you have things to do and you have bills to pay, you don't have time to think about like, oh, I wonder why the brown breasted bird, sings that way. You find out later why. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. But yeah, I don't know, man. Jamie, I really appreciate you coming on. This was awesome. I absolutely need to get in on your what would you call that when you go into the field? Do you have a name for it?
Well, Jenny and I call it contact. We just call it contact. Like contact. We do contact with our Bigfoot stuff. Like we have our own Bigfoot page, and I'm not about numbers, so I just have members that I know have fun and they like, they just share stuff. And the other thing is like I use Instagram. So most of my stuff that I do, I archive in Instagram because I found that it was just a place where I could store photos.
Yeah.
And that's what I do there. So I'm just archiving all the stuff that we find and the events and stuff that we do. And most of the events Jenny and I do are just, like kind of local for us, but like we go, like they asked us to do one at Salt Fork. So we may be doing a CE5 at Salt Fork.
Oh, okay.
That'd be cool.
That'll be convenient. That'll be convenient for us. Because we're already there. That'd be very cool. So I would I'll keep an eye out for that on Instagram then, because that sounds very, very cool. Just in general, just to do it. Are you located in like Pennsylvania area then?
We actually live in Ohio, but we're both from PA, so our minds are always in PA, but we live in Ohio.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure that like I can kind of think about like if I was going to that just like the amount of time it would take to get there, which isn't too bad. I mean, Pennsylvania is a long state though.
Yeah, I mean, we live right on the border, so like.
Okay.
Youngstown's the biggest city near us.
Okay.
Oh, that's not bad. I mean, that's
we're just up in Cleveland area, so right.
That's just going down. So very cool. Yeah. Again, thanks you so much. Do you have anything lined up as far as things you're going to this year that we can hope to see you at?
Jenny and I are speaking at Haunted Hillview Manor in Newcastle, PA. So we're gonna our CE5, all the CE5, and we're going to be talking about the congressional hearings and like what's new on that end with like how Congress is coming out and talking about UAPs, UFOs.
Okay, cool. And when is that? Just so maybe people can catch you.
That is in July. I'm not sure the specific date. I should know offhand, but I don't. It's in July.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm sure people can get enough information. So where's it at again? Just so everybody
It's
can.
called Haunted Hillview Manor, and that's in Newcastle, PA. It's maybe one of the second most haunted locations I've ever been to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So check Jimmy out there. That sounds like a cool event. And if you can't, just check him out at Salt Fork next year. Get yourself a ticket, and maybe we'll have some cool contact in the woods, as long as it doesn't rain again. We can be outside. But either way, this was a fantastic talk. I love talking spiritual stuff. It's my favorite. Me not being a religious person, I still enjoy I have that oh, sure, it's probably not that, but there's something bigger than me that is happening, regardless of what the answer to that is. And maybe there isn't an answer, and that's also fine. I just think it's very fun. So thank you for giving your time to us. It's absolutely appreciated.
Thanks so much, Jamie.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, the kitchen of conversation is closed today, but we appreciate all of you joining us. We are live most Fridays at 5, as much as we can be. I do not believe we'll be live next week, but we will have a show for sure. But we'll be, when our show is on next week, we will be heading to the haunted Mansfield prison, and hopefully we'll get some good stuff from there, either experiences or recordings. I'm hoping just a solid couple of things from it, or it's nothing. We'll just tell you about the good dinner we had, which is just as fine. Listen, I'm a food boy. Listen, there's a reason why this show is called Monster Soup. Boy likes to eat. Yeah. So Jamie, we'll see you next year for sure. If not, we'll run into you, in the stratosphere. So, all right. Talk to you later. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.